Hey guys, welcome to the first video of this channel. However you found this video, whether it was scrolling on Instagram or YouTube, or whether you was in my previous YouTube video and saw the link to this channel, there's no accident that you're here. This whole entire video series and this channel is going to be about my walk with God and the things I've done that you shouldn't do, and the things that I've experienced. And I'm going to be doing Bible studies and all of these things. I'm going to just be trying to proclaim the word and do what God called me to do, because I've been putting it off for months. And I don't even know when it's going to be uploaded, because I've been on the wishy-washy side of Christianity for a while now. I have faith in Jesus. I believe that he died for my sins and he rose again, and I've read the Gospels, and I believe, I have faith, right? But all those accolades don't mean much, because my actions and my heart, they're not in the right place a lot of the times. And I know there are going to be people that say, we sin every day, and it's not about how many times we sin, because Christ covered it, and to a certain extent I agree. He did die for our sins, and he covered it through his blood, and we're saved through faith alone. But that doesn't give us an excuse to act the way many modern Western American Christians act today, including myself. Now, I'm not a fire and brimstone Christian where I go and preach about hell and all these things, but I'm not always loving, and I'm not always what I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense. And it's oftentimes that I'm more fleshly than I am spiritual, and it's not a good thing. And I guess the title of this video is probably going to be "Do Not Be Like Me." Maybe it might be a series, I'm not sure. Just straight off the head, whatever the Spirit leads me to speak, and whatever I am led to speak, I don't want to write any notes down, because I want this to be genuine and as true as possible. So I guess I start off. I was saved. I don't remember the exact day, but it was like 3 years ago, I believe. Was freshly evicted from an apartment that I used to live in with a couple roommates. Evicted because of my own stupidity. Me living there that entire time, I never had an actual job. I would just DoorDash and Instacart, and I would be lazy in that. And eventually, the bills and the work, the stress, it caught up to me. One of my roommates, he decided to leave and move out. The other one decided to leave too, and I made the decision that I wanted to leave as well. But in doing so, I was going to get evicted anyway, because I didn't pay any bills, so they were evicting me regardless. But yeah, that led to me finally going to church again, because throughout my childhood, I went back and forth to churches. My mom had a couple churches that we went to, and so did my dad. But I always believed in God, but I was never like a Christian. I would just question the Bible and be like, it's rewritten, it's not real, it says this and that and that. And I had my own ideas of who God was, and I never really lived the Christian life. But that changed when I went to church, Victory Faith Center, and I don't remember exactly. I think it was Romans, where I was in service and the preacher was preaching Romans, and it cut my heart. And after that service, I went on DoorDash that entire night, listening to the Gospels, all the way into Acts. I think I listened to the Gospels, Acts, and Romans, I think. And that was the first time that I was on fire, and I was actually excited about Jesus. And it lasted for months. I would pray for simple things, and it would happen almost immediately. And not to say I would use God for prayer, or for answering my prayers, but it was those little things that just made me happy and full of joy and curious about who God was. So I would read, and I would go to church and be excited for going to church, the gathering of the church, and do all these things. And slowly but surely, sin crept back into my life. And with a lot of us men, especially teenage men, The one sin that you probably struggle with the most, and you don't know it's a sin, if you're not, it probably is lust, um, fornication, masturbation, pornography, things like that. And it's crept back into my life. And over the course of months, I would go to service, listen to the word, be convicted by the word, read the word, listen to the word, be convicted by the word, still sin. Over and over and over and over again. And the first time I sinned, I don't remember the exact first time I sinned after being saved, but I know I actually felt something. I knew it was wrong, and I felt conviction. And then I did it again, and again, and again. And slowly but surely, you don't even notice this, but after you've done the same sin for like the 50th time, you start not to feel any conviction. Not to say that it's not there, because conviction isn't just a feeling. But you start to be like, I don't really feel bad for doing this. And it's scary. And you know it's scary because you don't like it. But that's what sin does. The sin that you think won't hurt you or nobody or no one knows about, it hurts you because it hardens your heart. And I say that because many, many years later, I'm sitting in this parking lot at my job, about to go in, and finally made this video because I supposed to been did this months ago. But my heart is hardened, and I'm numb to a lot of emotions now. If any of my coworkers sees this video, or any family, you might already know, because you see that I'm either aggravated or I don't know. I don't really have emotions. I don't feel anything, and life's not about emotions or feeling. I'm not saying that. Don't rely solely on those, but it's good to have them because it lets you know that you're human. And I don't feel that. I have a hardened heart, and I know I do. And I'm not blaming God for it, but I think He allowed me to have a hardened heart due to many, many errors of my ways that He tried to correct me, and I wouldn't listen, or I would listen and go right back. He broke me free of the chains, and I put them back on. And guess what? I have the key to those chains already in my hand, but I'm still wearing them like as if I don't. And it kind of bears the question, if you keep going back to something that you know is hurting you and hardening your heart, why? And I thought to myself, and I was like, the reason why a lot of us go back to the same sin is because we're comfortable. And you don't even know that you're comfortable, but you are. You might be like, oh, I hate overthinking. I hate thinking that I'm not enough. I hate doing this. Why do I keep going back to it? Because you're comfortable in it. It's comfortable. You can say you hate it, but deep down inside, you wouldn't go back to it if you weren't comfortable with it. It's one thing to sin every now and then. It's another thing to follow the same sin pattern daily, weekly, or every couple of days to say, okay, I'm done, and then go right back to it. That's a different thing. And it's because we're so comfortable in it. We're comfortable. We don't see how bad it is. And I'm telling you from experience that as a guy whose heart is hardened because of my repeated sin, it don't feel like it's bad now. But years later, when you have done it again, or when you're trying to break free and you see that you don't feel any emotion, and you wonder why, you think God has abandoned you, but no, this is the consequence of your sin, because sin has consequences. You may not be condemned anymore because Christ saved you, but sin has consequences. And one of those consequences that is hard to get back is a hardened heart. And I'm just being honest. I have a hardened heart. I know I do. I don't think it's too far gone to the point where my mind is seared, because I still know it's wrong, and I know I don't need to do it, and I try my best sometimes not to do it. But I don't read the word as I should. I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And I'm not going out there living reckless. I'm not saying that. I go to work, and I believe I'm a hard worker. But I use work as an excuse to, when I get home, not to do anything. Or I can just relax and play the game for hours and hours and hours, or watch YouTube for hours and hours and hours. And what happens when you're by yourself? As a man, you're by yourself in your room for hours, letting your mind race. What do you think's going to happen, right? And although we have the fruits of the Spirit, how many times do we actually use it? Or do we say, oh, do you use an excuse to say, I can do it this time? Whether your sin is the same as mine, or you've done the same as me, or it's different sin, whether it's laziness, because I've used rest as laziness. I've worked all day and used that as an excuse to go home and not do anything, even though I know I had responsibilities. So what's the point of this video? The whole point of it is, don't be like me. Okay? I am 25, 3 years saved. 3 years saved. And I have a hardened heart. I know God can soften the heart and give me a new one. I know that He can save me from this, but I believe He's letting me go through this as a message to everybody else who's my age, or older, younger, a bit of both. Not to make the same mistakes I did. Read the Word, but more important than reading the Word, obey what it says. If you're newly saved, great. Because when I was newly saved, I was on fire. And it was exciting. But years go by, and we somehow think that because we are seasoned Christians that we don't need to be excited no more. When we should be more excited the more years go by, because we know the closer and closer it is that Jesus is coming back. But we lose that desire for Him because we let ourselves get surrounded by sin. And sin don't gotta be just fornication and lust. Sin could be anger, malice, rage, overthinking. Sin could be all of these things. So don't be like me. And don't lose that fire that God's given you, because you're waiting. Continue to wait in faith and continue to be in His Word. And the last message I'll have for you today is this: today, if you hear Him calling you, don't harden your heart. God bless.